Welcome back to AWE TV 2016. This is our first interview for the 2016 conference, and with me this time is Eric Abbruzzese. No pressure, you are the first one for this conference. So we'll need you to cover everything.
Of course, absolutely.
So you work at ABI Research,
that's right, and
you cover generally mobile, electronic devices, AR, VR. You have a presentation generally around mobile VR and where that's brought us. You know,
exactly.
It's enabled so much in VR in general, and I want to get to where you think the mobile device will lead us in the next year. But give me a kind of little description of where you think how we got here.
Sure.
For basically what's changed in the last year.
Yeah, so last year, I came to Augmented World Expo for the augmented part, and there was some good VR stuff, but it was generally kind of on the back burner compared to this massive AR space. This year it's a lot bigger, both at AWE and in the total market. Mm-hmm. So you have last year, there's the Samsung Gear VR. That was kind of the major mobile virtual reality device, and now this year we have competitors. Huawei has come up with their own. Asus just announced a headset. Mm-hmm. So you're seeing a lot of these accessories to these mobile devices, and that's going to continue throughout this year and going to really drive that mid-range mobile VR.
So the mobile device has enabled a lot of things. VR, everything from just scheduling my calendar, right? Where do you think lies the advantage of the mobile device? And there are the things like it's cordless, so I can do VR outside of just my living room, a confined space. Why is mobile VR so compelling?
I think the biggest one is the accessibility in terms of price and just general device accessibility. If you're looking at kind of that high-end virtual reality like the Oculus Rift, that's pretty price exclusive for a lot of people. If you look at the Samsung Gear VR, and you include Samsung's really massive footprint with their devices, you're looking at a $100 device for some really compelling VR content. Yeah. If you look at even lower than that, Google Cardboard takes any smartphone.
Sure.
And Google announced their Daydream platform coming out later this year. That'll add even more devices.
Yeah. So you can see they're trying to get into that. They're trying to make a play for
exactly.
Maybe take away some efforts from Samsung. But then again, I just saw an ad for the Samsung. Buy the new Edge phone, get a free Samsung Gear VR.
Yeah, that's actually going to be interesting because Samsung is a partner with Google in Daydream. So there's going to be an interesting dynamic with their Gear VR and Daydream and which one goes first.
I mean, how did you see this? You kind of have this 50,000 foot view of the landscape. Right? It's part of your job. So you see Gear VR working with Google. On the other side of that is Facebook and Oculus working with Gear VR. I mean, how does this all play out? Is it going to stop progress, or do partnerships like this actually help it?
Yeah, it's for the most part they're beneficial. Facebook's an interesting one in that it can kind of go either way. Yeah. If you look at the Oculus Rift, there's some might call some anti-consumer practices going on with DRM. That hasn't made
digital rights management.
Exactly, digital rights management and locking down certain content to certain devices. For the most part, that's not going to affect the broader market, and Facebook's interest and budget in VR will be a boon for everyone. So I think that'll more or less be a backseat to better advancement through Facebook and partnerships like that.
Okay. Where does mobile VR kind of stymie the experience, or kind of where we want to be in the next year? I mean, there's issues of power. There's the screen door effect because of the screen. The overheating, the chip, right? Yeah,
the performance is kind of the one that stands out the most. The resolution's an interesting topic when you look at mobile versus that high end. The Oculus Rift and the HTC Vive, they're both 1080p screens, effectively, and then you look at some of the flagship smartphones and they're 1440p. So they actually have better resolution. But on the other hand, you have less powerful devices, obviously, than a high-end PC powering it. If it's like a Snapdragon 820, it's a powerful chip, but it's not going to measure up to those desktop PCs. Sure. So performance is going to be a problem, and when you look into things like latency and frame rate being so important to virtual reality, that's going to be a hang-up for a lot of content coming forward.
Is having that neat, high-quality VR experience, is that enough to actually bring people from like the old revs of Android phones, for example, and to get get them to buy the new version of the Samsung Edge, for example?
I think so. I think part of the promise with virtual reality is you use your device.
Sure.
And that's what gets people involved. But as soon as they're involved, and if marketing does their job, they can see, oh, this could be a lot better with the Note 6 or Edge,
sure,
whatever you want to call, whatever the new device
kind
is.
Of hooks them.
So it's another path to get someone interested in their device. Yeah. So that could be a really promising marketing technique for them going forward.
And what's neat about the cardboard is it's almost device agnostic.
Right.
So you don't have to go high end. You know, I like to be dropped into the Antarctica and see baby seals play around me, and that's good enough because you couldn't get that experience on your standard phone just looking through a screen, right?
Yeah, I think good enough is the key word there. It's a really big play for them.
Yeah. So it should be interesting. I mean, what do you think has changed drastically? For example, here at AWE, this year, what are you seeing? Even some of the exhibitors, some of the presentations versus last year. How much have we grown?
I think content is a big part of it. You know, the last year and a few years have been really hardware focused, and content's kind of been relegated to the back in terms of just some tech demos and things like that. Yeah. And people started to notice, you know, why am I buying this really nice device, admittedly a really good device, but what am I going to use it for?
Right. Yeah, I get 3 bite-sized experiences. I can put it down and then get back to my Xbox.
Exactly. Churn is going to be really high if the content's not there. So content's going to be a really big thing in terms of, you know, we're seeing some development features here, you know, supporting developers with different SDKs and things like that.
Yeah.
And also just how to make compelling content. You know, the VR track has immersive storytelling as part of it. You know, what kind of content can we create and how can we make it better?
Yeah, I've noticed a lot of presentations are based around content generation, user-generated content. Now we're talking about story in VR, not just that 360 drop me into Antarctica.
Right.
But actually, let's develop this into an actual game you can actually play from here and walk around now. But they're focusing more on storytelling because ultimately people can kind of drop out of that bite-sized experience. And they want something more extensive. They can't potentially play a full-on game, but it kind of just it increases what we can do with VR.
Right. Yeah, you just want to pull people in. Immersion is kind of that keyword for virtual reality. So even if it's a bite-sized chunk of content, if it's immersive and compelling, that's what's going to keep people involved.
Yeah. What do you think we're going to be next year? In 2017 AWE, I mean, obviously there's better hardware, probably more partners. We've talked more content for people to play. I mean, what's going to be the killer thing to see at AWE next year?
I think some bigger content names. You know, maybe I don't know if Hollywood will be involved with the mobile side of things, but they're already involved with some of that high-end virtual reality stuff. Yeah. So some of those big names in content creation and content development, I think are going to be coming on board throughout 2016, and they'll be showcasing what they've been creating over the past year in 2017.
Yeah. So big names, big media types. That's entertainment side. Do you think mobile VR will enable kind of the enterprise a little more too? Because we're seeing more here, for example, VR for building information modeling, architecture, interior design. Do you see more than just entertainment? That's just one slide.
Sure.
Do you see it's going to enable other industries to increase business?
Absolutely. I think when you bring an enterprise into the conversation, it's going to bring in augmented reality naturally.
Yeah.
So if you're looking at virtual reality in enterprise, I think there's going to be that struggle, which is more important, AR or VR. And I think AR, at least in the next year or so, is going to kind of trump virtual reality in the enterprise. Yeah. I think for the use cases you're looking at, some of the things you mentioned, you have healthcare or industrial logistics, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Maintaining natural user vision is going to be more important than completely obfuscating for a virtual place.
Yeah, less immersion is necessary.
Exactly.
And for safety reasons, you need your peripheral.
Exactly. So that's why AR is going to trump VR for a while. We are seeing some uptake with some hybrid devices, whether it's maybe the HTC Vive, for example, it has a camera on board.
Sure.
So you can kind of get a pass-through basic image of what's in your surroundings, so you don't hurt yourself.
Right.
We'll see some more of that, some more advanced versions of that, both on the AR side, maybe having some opaque lenses to get some VR experiences, as well as those camera pass-throughs on the VR side to get some more AR experiences.
Gotcha. Cool. Well, I look forward to seeing you here next year. And and maybe we'll have you back on and see which of your predictions came true.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Sounds good.
Eric, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thanks for joining us. This is ABI TV. My name is Mark, and this is Eric Abbruzzese with ABI Research.